Hey, Essex County College family. Hope you're doing well today. This is the Virtual Cafe. It's presented by Student Life and Activities. Today's episode, number 34, is time management and remote learning. We're going to try and tackle these two topics today, amidst a couple other things as well, to try and determine some maybe better helpful ways and tips to manage our time at home during the pandemic, and to figure out some routines and some better practices that we can use in our daily life to find that balance of time to take care of our families and to work and to go to school and to do all these things. There is no right or wrong way to do it. We all find out kind of by trial and error. But we do have special guests with us today to help share some expertise on this topic. We have Mr. Graham, the Director of Student Life and Activities. Mr. Graham, how are you today?
I'm doing well today. I just want to take the chance to thank every student that took the time to come out. It's funny that Joe said we're already on episode number 34, right? So, no pun intended, but look how time flies. For everybody that read the email, I will never pretend to have all the answers, but I think that coming together for these types of discussions, whether you want to listen, whether you want to contribute, you want to speak, I think that will help each other get better. So today I wanted to talk about time management. All right. As we know, time is our most valuable resource, right? And a lot of things that people say in regards to time, people will say things like time is money. The funny thing, though, is that money, it will always come and go. But once you give up your time, that's something that you never get back. You can have similar days, but you can never get a complete day back. So it's very important, and it's probably highlighted now more than ever, the fact that we need to kind of manage our time. And when we talk about money, you can look at a relationship between time and money in regards to the fact that we like to budget our money, right? Some of us may not have a budget yet, but we definitely pay attention to how much money we have left at the end of the day, correct? And I get shaking of the heads.
Yes.
So we have to structure our time the same way, right? Because we know we only have but so many hours within the day. So with time management also comes routine and structure. And once we start to put those together, then we can start to apply that to other things and other areas in our life, such as our remote learning. And I like to look at it not just as remote learning. I think that a lot of the principles and the approaches that we take towards learning in period, whether we're in person or whatever the case may be, they can transition over to remote learning. The key is that we have to be a little bit more proactive and have the self-motivation to manage our time correctly so that we can be as productive as we can be. We good so far?
So far, Mr. Graham.
All right. So when we talk about time management, we want to try and learn how can we work more productively, right? We want to work smarter, not harder, right? But it's good to keep track of due dates when things are done, right? So we have calendars. But even within the calendar, we need to start planning a little bit more in detail in regards to our days as well, especially when it comes to learning. How many people are taking summer 2 courses? Okay. All right. Now, how many people have to log in at a certain time to attend their course while they're taking courses now in summer 2? All right. So in that regard, that hasn't changed from when you were in person, right? If you have a 10 o'clock class, you have to be present for what? That 10 o'clock class. All right. So we know we have to budget that hour and 20 minutes or hour and a half from 10 o'clock to 11:30, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But we want to do that for our entire days, so to speak, as much as possible, right? Because when we talk about time management, we're trying to fit a lot of things in. Time management is not just let me make sure I study for an hour and a half and let me make sure I go to class from 10 to 11:30. There are a lot of other things that we fit into our day, correct?
Absolutely.
And then that's how we build our routine, our structure. So for instance, when we get up, we might stretch, right? We might brush our teeth. We eat breakfast, right? This is all a part of our routine. And it all plays a role in our time management. Because if you get up like Mr. Graham does and he turns on ABC and he gets caught up in front of the TV too long, right? Now I've started to do what? Procrastinate a little bit. All right. But one thing that you can do is even things like that, you can build them into your routine. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you have to have time for what? Rest, right? Sleep, studying. A lot of us are trying to work. We're raising children. What else are we doing throughout the day?
Cooking, cleaning, laundry.
Eating, laundry, right? So who has a routine right now, at least for the morning? What's your routine, Jessica?
My routine after I get up, I stretch, get the kids up, brush my teeth, get the kids up, make breakfast. After breakfast, I have a 10 o'clock class, so I make sure I wake up early enough that they're settled before I get onto my 10 o'clock class, get into class. Then after that, then it's basically prepare lunch. Now it's the $64 million question. What do you want to eat? One wants pizza, one wants this. So, it's all about trying to figure out what's for lunch. So what I did is I came up with a lunch schedule. I actually made a lunch schedule for them. And if you don't want, you got, just like they do in school, you got A and B. And if you don't want A or B, then you're getting a peanut butter sandwich or getting, you can have a fruit, let me know what it is that you want. And then that way I'm not worrying about, I have this or I don't have this. So I make sure that when I do go food shopping, I make sure that I adhere to the breakfast schedule and the lunch schedule. So that way I know what I'm making and not wasting time when it comes to that.
Okay. Who else wanted to share? I saw a hand go up.
My routine is different. I have for Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I wake up and then maybe I go to run. I mean, not maybe, but I wake up and I go to run, like maybe 2 hours, and I come back and I have music classes. So it's not really a Zoom meeting. So you just have to read a book. So that's what I do. And after that, during the day, I may do something else. But for Tuesday and Thursdays, I have a Zoom meeting from 8:30 to 12. So I wake up and then I brush my teeth, take the breakfast, and then prepare for the Zoom meeting. After the Zoom meeting, I have to do the homework, the class homework. So I directly go to that, and then today, I don't know, during the day I do something else.
Okay, but we're all familiar with having a little bit of a routine, right? That helps us manage our time. And then even within that, even if we don't label it specifically, right? You said run, right? So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you make time to take care of yourself, right? To exercise. Then you come back, right, for your class. Sometimes that exercise even helps, right? So the way you manage your time and the way you put those different blocks together, it may not be the same for everybody, right? Some people may need to go work out and hit a punching bag or something after that class, right? But whatever it is, it really helps to set your routine. All right, who else has a routine?
I have a
We all
routine.
have a routine. What's your routine, Joe?
Well, my routine, now for those of you out there who don't have kids, I'm with you. So my routine may differ a little bit differently. So my routine usually consists of laying on bed until Mr. Graham texts me. I'm just kidding.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
My routine actually consists of I'm usually woken up by myself to go to the bathroom. So that's number one. Number two, glass of ginger ale. Number three, begin to sit down at the computer. Now, this usually takes place between 8 and 8:30. And during COVID-19, Mr. Graham and I's jobs have not changed significantly, but definitely a good amount, I would say, because a lot of the stuff that we're doing is virtual. It's still social, but virtual. So we have a lot of video projects that we've been working on. So something that I find very helpful when I sit down at the computer in the beginning of the day, my eyes are just beginning to open. You know, I've had the ginger ale. I've maybe had a scoop of peanut butter. I'm not like a big dairy breakfast guy, so I don't really do that. And I'm not too hungry in the morning. But what I do is I write down, physically write down, like I keep sticky notes all over the place, right? And I write down what I'm going to do for the day. And I could easily type that too. I don't know why I don't, but I can tell you that when I write it down, it sits there in front of me all day, no matter what, no matter if the power goes out, no matter if my computer's on, no matter if I'm not looking, you know, at any one screen, because I'm, you know, working with two computers. I always have these Post-it notes laying around, and it's kind of like, not intimidating, but it's like having someone on your shoulder at all times, having these notes around, because it's all stuff that I have to do. And my goal, right? My ultimate goal is to take that Post-it note and crush it and get the hell out of here. That's what I want to do. I don't want that on my list anymore. So like, I'll give you an example. We have our annual reports due, right? We have to do that every year for Essex County College, every department. Now, my contribution is pretty substantial. I work primarily at the West Essex campus, so I have to collect all that data, information, and whatnot. It's a big report. It's like equivalent to, you know, writing like a term paper when you're in college. I'm not in college anymore, and I still don't want to do it, right? Because that's daunting. That's a daunting task to have to write a big paper or whatever. So I will keep that annual report Post-it front and center, and almost sometimes, you know, at the computer I have a game controller here, right? So I'll put that Post-it note right on that controller. So every time I look at it, I'm like, you know what, maybe I need to kill some zombies. And I'm like, you know, that annual report due date is coming up. So I think I'm going to have to devote this time, even though I'd like to do some me time right now and kill some zombies. I think I'm going to have to start this report. Do I have to do the whole thing in one shot? No way. I'm going to do one page at a time, or I'm going to do one section at a time. That might be something to consider. And if you have a big project or a big to do, don't try and do it all at once. It's just overwhelming, and you might get frustrated, and it's gonna become a negative connotation every time you go back to it. So just do a chunk. I do chunks, you know. If you got tons of stuff to do, if you got little Post-it notes lying around, make chunks of stuff you got to do, and then just crush it when you're done. That's the greatest feeling. When I can take that Post-it note and launch it, I'm like, yes, that's another thing off the list. It's what I got to do. I try to make a little bit of time throughout the day to do some stuff for myself. You know, I can't, our hours during the summer are longer. So instead of working 8:30 to 4:30, I'm working 8:30 to 6 now. That extra hour and a half is killer. Do I want to sit in front of a screen for that long? No way at all. So I will go take a walk around the building. I will maybe mess around with some Pokemon on a device or something like that. I'm 35 years old playing with Pokemon, right? So, but you got to do stuff like that. That's a little goofy and silly to remove you from work just for a little bit. You know, you don't want to sit in front of the news, you know, for a couple hours, or you don't want to play a bunch of video games for a couple hours. Just something to stimulate the brain. Like, I like to play a game of Tetris, right? Because you don't really need to do anything crazy for Tetris. It's just kind of like a brain exercise that gets you, or Sudoku, you know, so if you're not a video game person, or a crossword puzzle, just something to get the brain started, you know, starting the car up a little bit, not really driving anywhere yet, but just to get your neurons, you know, pumping and functioning, so that when you do go to apply yourself to work, your brain's already on fire. You're already lit up for the day. You already can take that energy or excitement you have doing something for yourself, and then immediately switch over to work and start really going, you know? So that's what I'll do sometimes when I know that I have a big video that I got to do. It's like a 45-minute video that I've done with Dr. Spellman. It's going to take me, you know, a couple hours to edit and upload and whatnot. I might, before I do that, I might play Tetris for a couple hours, you know, not a couple hours. I might play Tetris for half an hour. And then when I'm done with that, I'll go sit at the computer and I am ready. I'm clicking around and I'm doing so much stuff because I did exercise for my brain. I should probably do a little more for my body. Sometimes it's not feasible to do. You know, I can't really leave and go do stuff for hours and whatnot. But try to exercise your body and exercise your mind. Mr. Graham?
Good advice, Joe. Good advice. And we do have some guests here, but before I get to that, because, you know, I always want this to be a growing conversation. And you know, I love spending time with y'all, and it seems the more times that we have these conversations, the more you come back around for more of these conversations. So one key thing that I heard with Joe, and I, like always, I hope we're all taking notes, because I'm taking mine, and I'll always show you I'm taking notes, all right? So one thing I heard from Joe was you have to allot time for breaks, all right? Because you can't just keep running in fifth and sixth gear all the time, right? Even with a car, eventually it's going to overheat. So you have to take that time. You have to take those breaks. You have to decompress. And then what I'm noticing and what Joe had said was you also need to find a way to refocus. And Joe told us one of the ways that he refocuses. For me, I'll be honest with you. For me, it's taking a drive. I can refocus and clear my mind on a good drive. And I'm happy that my boss isn't on this right now. Because even even preparing for programs like this, right? Like this morning, I had to take a nice long drive because I know what I would like for us all to talk about, but how do I open it up? Because that's all I want to do is just to open it up and foster the discussion. So for me, my refocus and my clearing my mind is just taking a ride. And that's when the ideas, start to pop in my head. So yeah, that's excellent, Joe. That's excellent. But we do have a special guest for those students who were not with us in the fall 2019 semester. That was the first semester we did what we now call Student Success Day. Student Success Day was just a little crazy idea we came up with in student life and activities, and we said, hey, what if we were able to just bring the best guidance and the best speaker we could find to come speak to our students, to get them geared up for the year, right? Get you geared up right in September. And then what if we brought all the resources from the college all in one place so you could have access to all that information at your fingertips? Needless to say, it was probably the biggest event that we had did to date. We found a wonderful speaker who helped us kick it off. And from there, we've received nothing but some support from students and administration. So please just welcome Geo Derice. He was the first speaker for our first ever Student Success Day on 9/19/2019. All right, so welcome, Geo.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm glad to be on here.
All right.
No problem.
Welcome.
And I want to let the students know that I actually reached out to Geo this morning. And asked him to join. He's a wonderful individual. I enjoy just having conversations with him. I really feel like we help each other grow. And anytime I can get him in front of you all, I would like for him to speak to you all. And I really want to work on some things to have him come back and help us from his level of expertise on topics like this to help you succeed as students. So, Geo, what do you have to share in regards to time management?
Sheesh. One of my biggest things when it comes to time management is if we're really honest, we really can't manage time. Let's just say, like, I'm having a really good time. So, like, myself and Mr. Graham, we having an amazing conversation. We're watching the Mets actually win a game, and we don't want this moment to go away, right? I can't go and hit pause and freeze the moment. The time will keep on going regardless. And so when we think about time and we think about it from a place of managing it, we can't manage it. And so the way I think about it is I can spend it, though. If you look at that part of, I can spend time. Every single day, you get 86,400 seconds that you can spend. And you can spend it whether it's sleep, whether it's having fun, whether it's playing Pokemon, right? There's a lot of ways we could spend it. And the key thing is once you make the shift that you're spending time, then the next question becomes, do I get a return on my investment of how I spent it? So now if I'm in class, and I now say, I'm going to go to study hall, or I'm going to go to visit my professor doing office hours, or because we're virtual now, I might schedule a session with my professor to go and get some more insight. That time of investment of 30 minutes, that return on investment might mean I went from a C to a B+ or A- in the class because I spent that time. And the reason why I say time and spending is because I want you to start looking at it from a perspective of, if I spend time, you don't ever buy something and don't expect something in return. If I told you right now, I'm going to sell you a $10 slice of pizza, you automatically are saying, what kind of cheese is that? Like $10 for one slice? Like I need to make sure that this is worth $10. And I want you to look at the way you decide what activities you do on that same level. And I think, earlier you talked about breaks, and I think breaks is important, but we also want to make sure we identify that I'm spending that time to take a break, and did I earn it? Like, did I earn the break? I don't know about you. Some of us, we've been on vacation for a minute mentally. And sometimes we got to be able to go ahead and check back in. But I think the biggest thing I would say is, if we look at time as, when we heard the quote, time is money, I want you to start thinking about it from that perspective, that I got 86,400 seconds a day. And when the day is over, you can't save it into your account. Every day it goes back to zero. And then at the start of the next day, it starts over again with another 86,400. And how you decide to spend that will determine the life that you will end up having. Oprah has 24 hours. Mr. Graham has 24 hours. Ms. Lopez has 24 hours. Mr. Joe has 24 hours. And how we decide to go and spend those 24 hours is ultimately going to determine the life that we end up living.
Woo!
Yeah, that was heavy. See, hearing Geo put it like that, quantitative. So I'm a quantitative person. I'm someone, I'm a budgetary person. I always try to examine as much before I do something, so I make sure it's the right thing or make sure it's valuable to me. When you put it like that it's, thousands of minutes per day, that really puts it into perspective for me, because when I think about how many minutes I spent looking at my phone or doing something really not productive or didn't really result in anything, that adds a lot of weight to those minutes, and I don't want to squander those minutes by any means. It makes me reassess the, recent days gone by and think to myself, man, I really got to start assessing my minute intake. It's like almost like calorie intake, you gotta manage it. Yeah.
It's huge. And I want you to, like, if we think about it, like, I did this tracker on my phone where, and I don't know, we all use our phones, but I don't know if you guys could probably write it in the chat. Maybe you're like me. Don't make me feel guilty. Say yes if you do the same thing. But I have put a tracker on my phone, and it would give me a report of how much time I spent on my phone.
Yes.
And I would get a report. Ms. Jessica's like, yes. Like, I'm telling you, like, I got this report, Ms. Jessica, and it was like, you spent 8.5 hours on your phone. And I'm like, that's a 9 to 5 job, and I ain't getting no checks.
Like, straight up, seriously.
It's so much time, we just don't realize it. And so I would even almost ask anyone who's on here, take a whole week and just start charting how you spend your time. Don't try to fix it. Just write it down so you could see, so that way you could start making some little adjustments here and there, where you might say, wow, I spent 3 hours on Instagram. What if I just cut that in half and put 1.5 hours towards reading? 1.5 hours towards listening to something educational on YouTube or a podcast, or reviewing my notes, maybe going on a Zoom session with activities like this. I think if you start to look at it, just like with Joe talking about the budget stuff, if we start budgeting our time, we'll be like, oh, shucks, like 8 hours on your phone is 480 minutes, people. That's like 480 minutes. And my math is not that good, so I can't do 480 minutes times 60, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And so when we say, I don't have time to study, I don't have time to do my homework, I don't have time to write the paper, it's like, do you not have time, or you just been spending it wrong? And maybe we can go and look back and say, how do I spend it differently so I can get a different outcome?
That's good stuff. That really is, right? When you look at it from that perspective, right? What are you getting from the use of your time? Because I know if I'm on social media and if I'm not literally reading some type of news that was posted on social media, I'm not getting much of a return. I'm not getting much of a return. And then it becomes so much more crucial, right? Because now we need to think about how do we apply everything that we've talked about to our remote learning environment, right? And it's one thing that this is taken away is when we talk about our time and how we spend our time. Prior to the pandemic, we were also able to spend our time in different geographical locations, right? We were able to move about a little bit more, which kind of helps with how you break up and spend your time. But now all of your time may be, for instance, I'm inside the same house from 8:30 to 6 o'clock. So how I spend my time within that little bubble now becomes a little bit more challenging, right? The kids are right on top of you now. They're not at daycare. They're right on top of you all day. Your TV, it's right where it was when you fell asleep last night. And so is the phone. So we have to think about how we're going to spend that time and perhaps in a more disciplined manner to maximize the return, as Geo was saying. And it's funny, you know, like I said, there are parallels between money and time. Like I noticed recently that I've become more conscious of my needs versus my wants when we're talking about buying things. We also have to be that way with our time, right? Oh, I want to go to the park and play basketball right now with that breeze out there and the sun is hitting just right. However, I'd probably be better suited serving students right now because that benefits you and it benefits me in the long run as well. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Because it really, what it comes down to is about your decision-making skills. Time management is about decisions. Is it gonna, some people see it as, oh, I'll do it later, or I'll have time later. And then later comes and something else pops up. And then it's like, oh, well, I'll put it off to tomorrow. And it's about prioritizing your decisions. You are the one that makes the decisions as to what you feel like you need to do. And if you can't prioritize your decisions, you're just wasting your time. You're living day by day, but you're not getting anything out of that day because you're not prioritizing your decisions in order to prioritize your time.
For our remote learning, does anybody have anything that's working for them very well right now that's taking these summer 2 classes? Because we're talking about time management and how we spend that precious resource. We know that it takes routine, it takes structure, it takes good decisions. So how do we apply this to our remote learning, right? Because we know remote learning, it has a lot to do with when we communicate, the proper environment, that routine. I'm gonna be honest with you. I picked up the latest part of my routine from my daughter, you know, because we were caught in the pandemic. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you know, every morning when I was getting up, it was just, you know, not like I'm geared to go, but it just wasn't the same as work. And then, you know, we had the summer recess, and during the summer recess, my daughter just started doing something different. She started going to the dresser every day and she started pulling out clothes and saying, "Daddy, can I get dressed?" And I'm like, you know, yeah. And that was one thing that I was leaving out of my normal routine. I would get up, I'll stretch, I'll brush my teeth, we'll eat breakfast, but I wasn't getting dressed like I was going to work, right? Or I wasn't getting dressed like I was going to learn. So I found that played an additional part in my motivation, my staying on task, right? So even though I may not be leaving the house, I still feel like I'm walking into that office, right? And then that you know, it brings certain triggers, right? Similar to how when I walk on campus, and I swear to you, I walk on campus and it's just something like my smile just gets a little bit bigger, right? So you have to, you know, kind of recreate that atmosphere for yourself. Definitely your work environment, right? Where are you going to study? How many distractions are present? When are you actually going to sit down to study? Are we still studying enough for each course? Right? So does anybody have anything to share and how that's going for them? What's working really well for you or worked really well for you in the spring semester?
I think for me, I I started, taking classes in the spring. And at first it was kind of rough because I, I had to make the right decisions to sit here and say, okay, I have to time manage it because I do have 2 kids under 10 years old. So being a mom, working from home, studying from home, everything was from home. But what I realized is when I'm locked in, when I'm told, okay, I have to be at a certain place or at a certain time, I'm locked in. I prioritize myself and I make sure that everything that needs to be done up until that part of the day is done. So when I sit down, my focus is on that 100%. And I'm not sitting here being distracted with, oh, I forgot the kids need to do this, or, oh, I need to go over here and do this. No, everything that I have to do is already done. So I can sit down and just be 100% present, because if you're not 100% present, then you're not taking in all the necessary information that you need to in order to be the best student that you can be. Sitting here and these virtual learning classes, not all of them are Zoom. Now, right now, I'm taking an English class, which is asynchronous. My professor, what does he do? He records the lecture. He posts them up. You listen to them when you need to listen to them. You extract the information that you need to extract, and then you get back to him with the questions that you have. And some students may not understand how to learn like that, but you have to put forth the effort in order to say, okay, I may not want to learn like this, but now I have to, because it's just how we have to do it because of the pandemic. This pandemic has changed the course of how we learn, and a lot of students have to adapt to that. Like I was telling Joseph earlier, I've never stepped foot on campus. I'm a virtual learner from March. I've never physically sat in a classroom and said, yes, I've been an in-person learner. So virtual learning for me has now become easier because I've done it more. Now, once the college, decides to open, it's going to be a change of another routine. Now we have to do this one-on-one, and that's going to be a different way of learning. But it's all about your mentality and how you strive with adversity.
So true. And I'm going to add, Ms. Carson said she had a lot of time management practice and actually timed the online classes. Okay, so 42 minutes each class, included lunch, and was able to actually finish at 1 p.m. instead of 3 p.m., which amazed her. So what did you do with your extra 2 hours? Well, I'm not going to say extra 2 hours. What did you do with those 2 hours now that you were completing your classes earlier?
Well, what I did was I did studying because we still had homework. Mm-hmm. And while I was studying, I was able to do the homework, I believe, 2 days ahead, which got me to finish classwork and homework within the same time range. So I was able to be ahead of my classmates.
Okay. So you're getting ahead with the with the coursework. What else are you getting ahead with? Are you using the time that you have now to develop any skills, any personal interest that you may have had? I'm just curious.
Well, my personal talent, which is art, painting, I've managed to master a lot of art skills. Aside from that, I'm working on getting a job and getting enrolled into college.
Okay.
A question for you, Ms. Carson. You say you're a painter. That's awesome. So my question is, do you go back and forth throughout the day? Now, you laid out your schedule pretty solidly. It's very quantitative. So you have your school schedule. Do you intertwine painting with that when you need to take a little break, or do you do all the school first and then kind of hold the painting hostage for yourself until you're done with your stuff for the day and then you start painting? How does that go for you?
Well, I do the painting afterwards, but intertwining, I do drawing, like sketching, or I'll play a game on the app, like word puzzles and stuff like that, or sometimes Call of Duty.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Amazing. Were you going to share something earlier, Ruben?
talking about communication is so important when you're dealing with time, because I'm in like my second year, and I walked into the crisis, the pandemic, and when the school was stopped and we started doing everything virtually. So in that period of time, I had deaths in my family. So I had to take time off from school. But I talked to my professors. That actually cut into, my pursuits, and my development. And when I talked to my professors, immediately they understood in the crisis of what to do. So, I could have just shut it down like some people did do. It was deaths all over the place, due to this COVID-19. And I had 3 in my family. So it was, a trying moment, but the professors knew what to do and they stepped right up to the plate. So I was able to tailor my courses around the communication that I gave to my professors. And as a result, I made the dean's list. So, that was very important for me to do, tell them my progress and what's going on. Look, I don't understand. Could you be a little bit more precise? Could you help me out in this? No question is too dumb. So what I was doing was pursuing my goals in the midst of a crisis through communication. And I was dealing with time in that manner. So it helped me out a lot. Things happen. I mean, we cannot predict the future, and we don't know what's going on in the next second, but we can communicate. So that's extremely important for me. Thank you.
Ruben, all I can say is seriously, man.
Ruben, thank you for sharing that. That was very, very, very important what you just shared. And the funniest thing was when we started talking about planning this workshop, and I happened to start some research, and I looked up tips for learning for students. And one resource that I found, communication was the number one thing on the list, Ruben. And even though you went through a difficult time, your communication still helped you attain the level of academic success that you sought just by communicating. And that's the funny thing, is that the things that we say that we need to do for remote learning, that applies when we're in person too. I can tell you, I've seen a lot of students make miscues by not communicating, by not simply just opening their mouth, right? Like he said, that there's no stupid question, right? And the only way that you can get assistance is if you let somebody know your situation. And more often than not, even though students don't think so, professors will see things your way. And if not, you're at Essex, so there's somebody that's going to see it your way. Students first. All right. How you doing, Amin?
I'm good. I'm actually going to be a freshman at the end of the month.
Wow.
Me too.
At the West Caldwell Tech campus.
Woo! Go West Caldwell.
Hello.
I wanted to add about the remote learning. It was a little bit difficult the first 2 weeks during my senior year. Mm-hmm. But afterwards, I tried to figure out a schedule that would work for me when doing my homeworks and studying. And I came up with the idea of using the small whiteboard I had in my room. And I divided into 7 sections because sometimes my homeworks are due on the weekends as well. And I write down the homeworks in advance on the board. I put the name of the teacher on top, and then the classroom assigned to it. And I did that throughout the entire quarter, and it's helped me a lot. when it comes to concentrating on my schoolwork because I have ADHD and it's challenging to figure out how to concentrate sometimes. So I figured that writing down what I need to do and how to get it done will be easier.
Brilliant.
Write it all down, and you'll find that you'll be getting rid of all this stuff that you need to do, like it's a grocery list, and you're crossing stuff off as you go along. That's the best way to do it. Process of elimination.
That's very smart. Somebody had something to add. I saw some hands go up on that one.
Well, yeah, I had a couple of things. The first one was about dumb questions. My mom will always say the dumbest question is the question you don't ask. And about what Ammon said, I have two things. One thing is I have ADHD as well, and I had to put everything in my notes. That's how I was able to get ahead and figure out what I had to do. And number two, I have a question, and that is like, how did you manage to pick up where you left off your senior year? Because we had to do our work and go back to the school to get our senior packages, record us walking across the stage. That's where I had to struggle at, when we had to go back and forth to the school and do our work the same day within the same hours. How did you manage to do that?
You're asking me how I managed to do the assignments and how I managed the last final months?
Yeah.
The last final months was not too much of a struggle because for the assignment wise, we all use Google Classroom for every single course. And in advance, our teachers were also prepared as they took a development day to show how they would be doing the virtual classes. And then they explained it to us via Zoom meeting. And then they taught us through the Zoom meetings as well. And when it came to like the walking down the aisle and certain senior stuff that we had to do, it was much more complicated for the school, on the school's end, than for our end because of the time management they had to acquire. Like they had to give us the cap and gown, the diploma, and the laptop, and we had to return laptops. Each were in different days, and they had to. It was a difficult process for them because they have to keep everything in accounts, and since we're in the middle of COVID, it made it more difficult as well.
Well, my school should take notes.
Well, you know what? Sometimes a lot of people need to take notes, but sometimes things are unavoidable. And I could relate to exactly what you're saying, because I came into this and I was speaking to Joe earlier. Remote learning equals remote teaching equals remote work. The only difference is the last word at the end, but you're doing it remotely, but you're doing a huge series of tasks that you're ultimately responsible for. So the same thing happens to me that happened to you. When I can relate to you saying, well, how do I get all of this done with all the running back and forth? And it's funny that that's something that I'm facing right now with work. And I'm quite sure Joe can attest to that. Whereas I may work remotely maybe 3 days out the week and go in the office maybe 2 days out the week. And a lot gets lost in just that, having to add that extra element now to my new routine of moving physically. So it's like I kind of get into the office and I'm kind of lost, and then it's like, okay, well, I had to run to the office to do this, but then when I run back home, my routine is off, so I'm still a little lost. So some things you can never account for. And that's one thing that I wanted to add when we talk about our remote learning, how we spend our time, is you have to have flexibility to account for the unexpected. And then what I try to do is, unfortunately, when you're not the one calling the shots, it's hard for you to do it. You can't tell your school to say, hey, listen, if you're going to need me to come to campus 5 times, can you save those 5 things for one day? But that's kind of how I try to get around it with work, is as I say, okay, well, I need this list to be, yay long before I actually physically go into the office. Because you set a new routine, right? You knew you had your classes down to 40, 42 minutes. You knew you were down by 1, and then all of a sudden they want you somewhere else at 12:15. So it does kind of throw you off, but we have to be ready for the unexpected, and we have to battle through it, the best we can and make the most of it. And one thing I did to try and compensate for that was I've been migrating a lot of stuff to the cloud. So I don't know if you students know about it, but our email accounts for students are powered by Gmail. And then also hopefully we're still offering the Microsoft suite through in Moodle with the connection we have with Microsoft. So I've been putting a lot of stuff in the cloud. So I can be sitting here working on my annual report, and then if I have to go into the office, well, I'm just going to go back into the cloud and I'm going to pick up where I left off. So I kind of try to give myself the ability to work from everywhere as much as I can.
Right. And an alternative to that, if you're not privy to the cloud or maybe have some reason why you don't want to use the cloud, you can always go old school, use your USBs. You can get a good external drive. This is a WD Western Digital that I got off Amazon for $50, and it is 2 terabytes. That's probably more than you're ever going to need unless you make videos, for which then you'll need a couple of them. But carry the stuff with you. Like your toolbox is different now. Like, for example, Mr. Graham and I worked on campus this week on Monday. And like he said, it was a shock to the system. We're working home for months. So we come to main campus. I don't have my computer here, right? So how are we supposed to do, I don't have my Nintendo. How are we supposed to do our self-care throughout the day? Because we've just gotten used to, 4 or 5 months of a different routine. But we still have to work in that self-care or, time for us throughout the day to take a break. I don't have any of my stuff. I don't have my peanut butter. I got my Nintendo, my ginger ale, right? So what am I going to do? You got to just kind of, you make do. Like I remembered, oh yeah, the Dasher Center has a giant grand piano in the multi-purpose room. I don't even know how to play piano, but I'm a musician. So that's what I did on my break. I went and jammed out on the piano and just kind of pretended to do guitar stuff on the piano. And it was cool because I had to adapt. I don't have my stuff. My routine has been disturbed. I feel like, slightly like alienish, because I'm a fish out of water, even though I was in that water for a long time. But you just kind of adapt and find time for you, even when you're, because I'm sure a bunch of us are going to be transitioning back to working in person or at some type of staggered level where you have to go in a couple days a week, no matter where you are pretty much at this point. And just don't forget you in the process, and don't forget to have a little fun even while you're working.
Well, I think the good part about all of it was they told us in advance, so I was able to figure out at least plan A, B, and C while I had to be at the school and do the work. So what I did was the small amount of time I had on the bus, I did my work. And another good thing, another blessing was I already had notes. That way all I had to do was put it into play and put it, paraphrase it to make it, connect. So that was the good part about it. I just it was kind of hard to submit it at a reasonable time and be able to do the other work, but I was able to manage. It was just a little hard.
Even though it's a little hard, like you said, we can manage. That's very important to keep in mind. We can manage, right? No matter what it is you want to do, right? When you want that ginger ale, you go get that ginger ale, right, Joe?
That's right.
Right? We have to be the same way with our success, right? We want that success. We go out and we get that success. All right? And it's going to be hard at times, right? But that's why we create these little chats right here to come together and help each other get better, right? When Geo talked about investing your time, right? There's a lot of things I could be doing with my time. But one thing that ensures me a return is bringing things to students because students will bring things back to me. All right. I try to help you learn. You definitely push me and help me learn because I'm learning a whole lot now. And then guess what? At the end of the day, now I have to go back and reflect and say, hey, well, what can I take to them next? Right? And we can literally walk away with that topic before we leave today. If that's all right with everybody here, all right? Because we might as well just utilize this opportunity to just keep building, right? We took a step. We started talking about time management. We're getting ready for that fall semester, right? So then now let's think about what do we need next? What skills do we need to sharpen? What's going to make this a little bit easier? Maybe it's just coming together just to stay together periodically. But like I said, it's all about you all, and you let us know what we want in student life. That's our job. It's actually our pleasure, right? To bend over backwards to make it happen. It's actually a skill.
Sure is. We have fun. We have fun when we do it. Just so you know, student life and activities.
Yeah.
I don't care who's watching. We have the most fun more than any other department in this institution, and you can always count on us. You send us an email, call, whatever, and even if we don't know how to solve it, we will bring you to somebody or bring them to you that knows how to do it.
I'm glad I found out about you guys. I didn't know. I was going through the Sean Hall, Mr. Hall.
Yeah.
He helped me immensely in my going through these semesters. The Student of Excellence.
Oh, absolutely.
That was great. I mean, I can't. When you say you bend over backwards, I believe it. I really do, because I've seen him do so many things that I was like shocked. I was like, how does this man really care for me that much? You know, and he really put it in. I'm telling you, I believe you guys.
Because it's genuine, and LaDawn has been with the college sometime, whether part-time or full-time, and I'm quite sure he'll tell you himself. I think that the biggest thing is that we try to replicate the same culture that we experienced the institution in. So I'm an Essex County College graduate, and I know how the college was when I was a student. I know what things I enjoyed seeing. I know the feeling that I received when, like you said, somebody really cared about my situation and helped me work through something, or just took their time to even listen to me. So I always like to make sure that that's available for students. And I was looking at your name; it looked quite familiar. And I do work with the Men and Women of Excellence Scholars Program that's under Dean Kirkland, and Mr. Hall is absolutely the advisor in regards to that. And I can tell you that you know, we put in a lot of resources into that, and the goal is to model that across the board. So, you know, your participation in that program just really goes to help your peers as well, campus wide. So thank you for participating in that. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that you came through the Men and Women of Excellence and you were met with great success. Right? So you were kind of the one of the trailblazers, because this was the first year that we had done it, was the year that you came in. Right? So congratulations to you again. All right. All right. So what are we going to discuss next, guys? What's next?
Transitioning.
Transitioning. What type of transition?
Well, for those of us, I feel that like I said, for me, who has never been a student on campus, transitioning from the virtual learning into the actual going on campus, whether it be 1 or 2 days a week, or, you know, like what they call the hybrid classes and stuff like that kind of transitioning, and coming and understanding, because the building itself, you have to learn the building before you can know where you're going, because they say, okay, you're in 421B. Okay, but where's 421B? And for a person like me who has never been in the building, I'm going to I feel, and this is where when Mr. Geo was saying, was you're wasting time looking for a class where I got to get to I got to get to the building earlier so I can figure out where the classes are. So by the time it's time for me to get to class, I got a 10-minute transition period. I don't want to waste 10 minutes looking for a classroom.
So, Joe, we have work.
We sure do.
Hey, you asked.
But listen, that's very important because we had to transition from in-person to virtual. Mm-hmm. Some people were never in person. So you're right. And even for people who were in person, we still have to transition back from remote, virtual.
That refresher course.
Person. But would it be cool if we just set up a Zoom one day and, Joe sat back and operated everything and I just went through the main building on my cell phone and we just did a campus tour?
Absolutely. Anything helps.
All right. So
we can do that.
We can do that live via Zoom, right?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Exercising for the day. I get to show you all the campus. There's some new things for those who have been there that you may not have seen, like the Welcome Center is open now if you check your email. They're actually renovating a lot of the bathrooms. So a lot of the bathrooms, probably all the bathrooms might look brand new by the time we get back. And I mean, they're moving rapid. Like these things were going to be ready by the fall anyway. So yeah, why not? Right? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Little live campus tour, right? Y'all can run me around and, maybe we'll do some type of trivia at the end.
At least this time you won't be running from bears.
Let's hope not. Now I shared something with Geo this morning that I didn't get a chance to share with you all. Now remember, the day before the thought session, I saw the bear. That next Wednesday, I saw the bear again. And I have it on video, and I'm going to share it.
You better leave Winnie the Pooh alone.
Now, the funny thing was this time, I had to warn the neighbors because the bear walked onto their side of the street.
My goodness.
Yep. But the funny thing was that the bear, if you notice, I saw it on a Wednesday, and then I saw it on a Wednesday. The bear was on a routine. It really was.
Bear know what time you be out there.
And it was the same. Well, I think he's telling me what time I shouldn't be out there. That's what he's really telling me.
Remember, we had this conversation the last time when the first time you were talking about the bear.
Uh-huh. And then the Wednesday that just passed, I actually just went out just to see if I saw it.
Mr. Graham lives out where there's bears. For those of you who may have missed that story in a previous episode we've done. But I just want to assure you, there are no bears in Newark other than, of course, the Newark Bears, our wonderful baseball team. That's it.
Yes.
Right.
Sarah asks in the chat, starting this fall, will we continue to have online classes? Mr. Graham?
Yes. The only classes that will be meeting in some form of in-person capacity would be those classes under allied health that have certain clinical and lab requirements. And then a student did ask me, was that going to apply to the science labs? That is something I have to look at. But as it starts now, we will be beginning online. As far as I know now, we'll be continuing with virtual activities such as this. And then under guidelines, in-person surfaces will be offered. So for instance, once they say it's allowable, I'll give students the ability to make appointments to come in to see us in the Dasher Center. Because we still have a ton of valuable resources there. Our scholarship books, our leadership books. So just make sure you just keep an eye on the email, but we will start online. And that's why I want to be able to create things like this to help make it easier. All right. Because even though we were kind of forced into this may not be the last time that you encounter online or remote learning. I actually had to finish my master's degree online. All right. So it pays to get this experience. and it may not be the last time. And who knows, you may find something that's just more preferable to you as well. Right? This is the time when we talk about how we spend our time. Spend the time to get to know yourself, your preferences. You may actually find that you may like this type of work environment. But you have to find what works for you. But we will start online. Of course, I'm here. I'm not going away. You're going to keep getting emails from me about programs. I'm going to sneak in my motivational quotes. I'm going to do everything to help bring us together, keep us together, and help make each other better. All right. So I just hope that you all continue to join me. Again, I definitely want to thank Geo Derice for coming, stopping through. For those who weren't able to attend Student Success Day last year, it was a phenomenal experience and really changed the way programming is looked at Essex County College to a strong degree. It's something that we continue to look forward to hosting, and I will be reaching out to Geo to work with him. You can see that when he brings it, he brings it. So I do want to make sure that we get him, virtually, in person, or otherwise, to get him back together with us to just bring you some of that knowledge and insight that he has. As you can see, it's very relatable, right? He gets it, right? And when we offer programs, when we bring somebody in, we're going to bring somebody in who gets it, right? They're not coming to talk above you. Right? They're not coming to talk to you as if they're better than you, right? They're just coming to share what they have and what has helped transform them, with the hopes that it will transform you, as well as to feed off that energy, right? You guys give us that energy. You push us, you make us go. So I need you to continue to just tell your peers, right? Get up in this Zoom, right? Push us, push me to new heights. That's what I expect of you all. All right. And I hope you expect the same from me, because I'm coming to push you. All right. And we love you too, Geo. All right.
Let's do the outro, man. Ready? So remember, folks at home, it's a pandemic. We're all mandatory in this together because none of us have ever been through this before. So we're going to come back in the fall as strong as we can, and it'll be hybrid, part virtual, maybe part in person, but it's information changes all the time. And as soon as we get it, we try to communicate it to you. If you ever have any questions on changing information, you can always send me or Mr. Graham an email. I'll put those on the screen when we put this video on the web. We want to thank you all for tuning in to the Virtual Cafe. It's been a pleasure speaking with everybody today. We really appreciate everybody chiming in with all their different recommendations and experiences with time management and remote learning. I want to thank our special guest, Geo, for joining us and sharing some awesome words of expertise on time management, how to spend those minutes. That's going to stick with me all day now on how I spend my minutes. So we hope that you and your family are doing well during this time. Please stay safe, stay cool during this unbelievably hot weather, and figure out how you're going to spend those minutes today and maybe even tomorrow's minutes. Take care of yourselves and each other.